We knew tariffs were coming. Is the most beautiful word in the vocabulary, more beautiful than love. He said that, okay?
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
The problem is not the tariffs. The problem is how it's going about with the tariffs. He could just get to the White House and say, I'm putting tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China, Europe, you name it. It's 25%, non-negotiable, okay? If you don't like it, come to the table, one at a time, we're going to talk about it. Do you want to retaliate? I'm going to retaliate again, from the beginning.
Donald Trump is at it again. Markets are red, everybody's loving it. Economic data came in better than expected, and still the market sold off because Donald Trump just said he wants to take over Greenland. The Europeans retaliate, the Canadians retaliate. Mexico is playing a very tricky game. We'll see what happens with that. April 2nd is coming fast enough, and tariffs are scaring the whole market. In this episode, we're going to talk about what we see going on in the market. Where do we see this market heading in the next couple of months? What is the Fed going to do? That's going to be a juicy one for sure. And last but not least, what we're doing with our portfolios and the changes we hope to implement, which stocks we are hoping to get at cheap discounts. Let's get it started. Dimitris is here with me. What do you see in the markets, my friend? What do you see in the markets?
First of all, hello. I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, but I love the red lighting behind you. It's totally appropriate for the environment we're in, for the sell-off.
Yeah. It always shows, it
Yes.
follows, it feels, market sentiment of eToro,
Yes.
AI and eToro, give me the red light.
So uncertainty, that's the word of since the beginning of the year.
2025.
2025, that's the word, yeah, it's uncertainty. And the market seems to overreact always on the upside and downside, and this time unfortunately is on the downside, despite of the positive data we got yesterday with CPI coming below estimates, which was, if you think about it, oil price was down 10% last month, right? And the Atlanta Fed live GDP tracker was like, it took a dive, the last update we had. So it was obvious that CPI was coming lower than expected. Despite that, the market just celebrated that for the day, but today is back to the reality of the market is basically pricing a recession as a recession is happening as we speak. I'm not in that camp. Okay, I think maybe slower growth. One interesting fact is that this sell-off that we're experiencing now, from the all-time highs to the drop, I think the S&P got down to minus 5%. It's the fifth fastest in the last 75 years. So in the last 75 years, we went to the financial crisis, we went to a dot-com bubble, we went through COVID, and this drop is the fifth fastest, which is good, because when it goes down fast, it comes out fast. It's the slow dripping loss, like every day, that scares me, to be honest. Other than that, my sentiment is I'm still bullish for the year. I think the first half is just uncertainty until Trump gets everything he wants to get done. Tariffs, geopolitics, Ukraine, the economy, the deficit, debt, everything. He's trying to get he's doing too much at once, okay, is a problem. And once most of them, of course, the shutdown in a few days, of course, the timing couldn't be worse, as always. But once those risks subside, then I foresee a strong second half of the year. And I'm going to make a prediction here. I say the US outperforms Europe and Asia in 2025 by the year end.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a hot take. You heard it here first. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting because it does feel that a lot of money moved out of the States into safer, more predictable economies, but we still have the like there's still a lot of uncertainty in Europe and in China as well, you know. So that's something that's gonna either, and also they were undervalued, I would say, you know. Like I think the bounce that we had was because the spotlight was definitely in America for the last 2 years and mostly in tech, and then we're seeing that sort of like migration to safety somewhat, but the question is it really safety there? Can the Europeans really spend the amount of money that they're saying they're going to do in defense? Is the Russia-Ukraine not going to escalate? So many questions starts coming. Are the Chinese really going to be dealing with deflation the right way? And do you trust the Chinese numbers, which at the end of the day was with the pebble in the boot?
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good question. But you know what? If the Chinese outperform, I'm okay with it because they have tech. They have something.
Yeah.
The Europeans.
Well, now they're competing.
Now they're competing, okay? The Europeans, they have banks and they have telecommunications. I mean, what did they ever invent? I mean,
they're falling behind. They're probably too much regulation, in my opinion.
I mean, if you remove ASML from Europe, I mean, they don't have anything. There's just banks, a museum, and clothing. I mean, and as good as they are, they don't command high valuations like an NVIDIA, like an Amazon, like a Microsoft. So I see the Europe as a trade, okay? And investors are like, you know what? We have money and we're not going to sit with the uncertainty in the US. Let me go make 5, 6, 10% in Europe. And when Trump wraps things up in the US, I will return. And this is exactly how I see it playing out later in the year.
Okay, I get you. Okay, that'll be an interesting one. We're definitely gonna have to get you. Yeah. Like, you know, we're gonna have to check the circles. That's the nice thing about it, like doing the episodes and recording ourselves with the predictions as well, because we're able to say, hey, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, and we analyze on those things. But
we're gonna save the clip for the end of the year.
For sure. Okay, so tell me a little bit, right? Like a couple of things I wanna. So what is your view on the current volatility that we're seeing? Right? Like, so we're seeing tariffs, we're seeing Trump, the Trump effect, right? The Trump euphoria has also gone, but what else do you see, right, in this volatility that's being created?
Okay, so Trump ran the last campaign saying that tariffs is the most beautiful word in the vocabulary, more beautiful than love. He said that, okay? So we knew tariffs were coming. The problem is not the tariffs. The problem is how it's going about with the tariffs. He could just get to the White House and say, okay, today is the 21st. On the 25th of January, I'm putting tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China, Europe, you name it. It's 25%, non-negotiable, okay? If you don't like it, come to the table. One at a time, we're going to talk about it. Do you want to retaliate? I'm going to retaliate again from the beginning. Instead, he didn't do that. He started and said the first round is going to be March 1st, and then the second one is April 2nd, and then he's changing his mind. Like you and I, we follow the developments really closely. And to be honest, I got confused. I mean, what was it with China? Was it 10? Was it 25? Was it 25 plus 10? So it was confusing, and it is confusing. The dates and when and where. And on top of that, you have Ukraine. The way he's going about it, it's confusing. It's confusing markets. The market needs a clear pathway. The market can deal with bad news, but we have to know what the bad news are. I can't just speculate what the bad news. So that's what's creating the uncertainty, in my opinion. It's not the tariffs, because we all know that's how he negotiates. So it's temporary. I foresee in by the beginning of Q3, they're going to be behind us. Maybe he's going to be dealing with just China. And because with China, there are like bigger issues than trade. And I think the market is going to resume what we started in. Okay. How about you?
For me right now, it's tricky, right? It's both the tariffs and the way that he's coming about it, for sure. Because the way that I see it is he's setting up the tariffs, and then he acts all surprised when he gets when he gets retaliatory tariffs, for example, Europe, for example, Canada. But what is he expecting? I really don't understand what the expectation is, other than why not ask somebody to come sit at the table first? They're allies at the end of the day, right? Like they're not hostile nations. So And I go back to this sort of idea of gangsterism.
Mm-hmm.
The gangsterism of Trump, right? He's coming in and he's saying, look, like, I am the strongest person here. You have to do what I say. Come kiss the ring or get out.
Mm-hmm.
And many, like, Mexico did for a little while. They were like, look, we're going to put 10,000 people in. And at the time I was like, okay, like that's a small win, right? Like it's 10,000 people, but like, is this really, like, what are you trying to do? So the message has gotten so like muddled. And I don't really understand the whole message of what he's trying to do. He's saying he wants to take over Greenland, but he needs them for defense. So are you willing to take over and start a war? What are we doing here, right? Like be direct, be clear as you can be, and let me know what you want, And it's like even if Trump, like the Trumps and the Trump agenda, which is the art of the deal, right? It's like, okay, you're coming in from a position of power. But okay, ask for more, right? Don't come like if you come and you say, hey, like I want to do a deal and I want to like I want to have a strong deal with Greenland, that's a better position than coming in and saying, I'm going to take over. Like, what are we talking about? I can blow up the world too. You know what I mean? I can press the button. It's like, so what are we talking about, right? Like that's where it seems too much. I mean, the Americans are known for too much, but this seems even more. And I just,
Yeah, I mean, he's from New York. This is what America despises about New Yorkers. It's like exactly him. He's like loud and unapologetic. And I mean, I saw the clip you're referring to that he said we respect the freedom of the people of Greenland, and I think we're gonna get it. And then he said we're gonna get it one way or another, and he was laughing. So you don't know what to believe. Was he? I mean, obviously he was joking, but was he? That's the thing.
The thing. He does have the power. The thing is he does have the power to do it.
Yes.
If he wanted to.
Yes.
He could just pull, like he could pull a Russia.
Yeah, he can just take his ships to Greenland, just take over. It's not like it wouldn't even be like a struggle. And he likes to be on TV so much. That's why he's president, I think, in my opinion, because he likes to be on TV. But sometimes he doesn't watch what he says, his tone, and you have to read between the lines or just take him literally, and you don't know which one is it at any given time. And this is add to the confusion on top of the tariffs, on top of the Ukraine. So it's too much at once. The government shutdown, and then Elon Musk with Doge, the cutting spending there. It's everything that you could possibly get in 6 weeks?
Yeah. Well, it already feels like the whole of the Biden presidency.
Yes.
Like I've aged. I'm older.
We saw Biden 4 times in 4 years, like 5 times. Yeah. He's like on TV every single day. Like he's everywhere. And you know what? The reporters, they're doing a good job putting a mic in his face and asking him questions not relevant to the place he is. I mean, he might be in church, he's talking about Ukraine. He might be in Washington, he's talking about like whatever. And investors like ourselves, we're watching this and you're getting more confused by the day.
Yeah. Is the lack of continuity in how every single member of the White House right now is speaking, right? Once somebody tells you one thing, somebody tells you another thing. Yes. Then Trump comes out and says, hey, I want Greenland. And if Canada becomes the 51st state, I'm going to let them sing the anthem. And it's like, what? Why? You go play golf, my friend. Go play golf. Take a day off. But again, we digress a little bit, I got a little bit into this, I'm like, I want to gift him a golf bag, hopefully, or maybe some golf clubs so he can go play in Mar-a-Lago, But what I want to know is this. So we've received some data today, right? So the CPI and PPI, the data for February was fantastic. I have some theories on why it was so good, and I think it had to do with the front running of raw materials before the Trump presidency, because again, we expected the tariffs. Like the tariffs is not something new. The way that they're being executed is the thing that's scaring the markets, right? We agree on that.
Yes.
So that data came in, and I think it was, it's like everybody, I think if we looked at the trade balances, the trade balance of the states in January, the data came in way hotter than expected. I think $120 billion. No, $120 billion, I think it was, like to the
as a deficit. In front of me, but yeah, it was.
Yeah. Somewhere around that, right? And usually it was expected to come in at 80 or 90. and then it came in at 120. So then then a lot of people, what they were doing, it was like, before he puts in any tariffs, I'm just going to buy as much as I can.
Yes.
The other thing that happened was the Atlanta Fed that you mentioned, the GDP expectations are coming through the floor. They're coming down. So they're saying recession in Q1, which is nuts. So what do you see with that, right? Like now we're hearing the Fed speak next week. I want to touch on a little point that you told me just before the conversation started, but yeah, like what do you see? So how is the market data for you right now? Do you see that recession coming? I think you said no, but expand a little bit on.
Okay, so I don't see a recession. I'm not in the recession camp. I'm in the possibly slower growth camp, and I think it's expectable for someone to expect a slower growth with whatever is happening. Regarding the CPI yesterday, it came below expectations for the reasons that oil prices are down 10% in the last month. I think it was like mid-70s, and now it's in the mid-60s. Energy has a lot to do with inflation. So how sustainable is in the mid-60s? That's a different story. But OPEC increased production. The US just added 3 million barrels a day into the production. Hopefully it stays low. But no, I don't see a recession. The Atlanta Fed confused me for a minute, if I'm being honest. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, so I win a recession. But the CPI suggests otherwise, unless, and this is the scenario that nobody wants, for us to be in a recession, because a recession usually kills inflation. It's the best remedy for inflation. It's just a recession. A recession is going to get the inflation down to zero. But if we get the GDP for Q1, and we're going to know after the fact, of course, and we see that we were in a recession, but inflation remains at 2.8, that's stagflation. I don't think we are there, but that's the risk. As far from running the producers buying inventories, from running the tariffs, yeah, that's obviously what it was. And any reasonable businessman, given the time that they're gonna have like 6 weeks until the tariffs, you're gonna buy as much as you can and stack up. Yeah. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question is, what do you see happening? Well, based on this, I mean, you touched on the points, whether we went to a recession or not, right? So for me, in this case, right, like what do we see happening right now? And the thing is like, I'm in this camp, like my research has taken me to a very interesting point, which is the credible threat theory, right? Like Trump had to come in and create this credible threat and actually execute on that threat so the repercussions become real. Right? Okay. So now it's becoming real. It's like the idea of a recession coming, it's real. It's potentially there. Now, the question would be like whether the recession is a normal recession that we're used to before, like in the past, where it was like, because we can get a technical recession. A technical recession is GDP coming down, but there are things that he's doing in order to get that figured down, which is government spending is coming down.
Yes.
Exports went up. Sorry, imports went up. And exports theoretically will come down in the first 3 months. So we could potentially see a technical recession, but I don't think it affects us the way that it has affected us in the past, which is the way the massive unemployment, just because of the amount of productivity that we have, is so massive. Right? So that's where I defer a little bit, but I'm in the same boat that I don't think we see the systematic damage that many in the market are starting to predict. The recession has been a major catastrophic recession has been predicted since the pandemic, and it hasn't materialized yet.
And to put in context what the recession is, the definition of a recession, at least as I was taught in the university, is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. So that's 6 months of negative GDP. I don't see that happening. Like, unless by the next month the labor market collapses, and when I say collapses, I mean spikes, not collapses like spikes.
The unemployment.
The unemployment rate. Unless that happens, then I might have to reconsider. But I don't see that happening. Besides that, we got, what is that chart that says the probabilities of a recession in the year? What is called the polymath? The poly market, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the betters, the gambling odds.
Yeah, the odds. The after recession, I think, was like 40% yesterday. I mean,
sitting at 39% right now.
Yeah, 39%. So if you're making an investment decision based on that, I mean, the only thing I have to tell you, just give your money somewhere else to invest them for you. Okay? I mean, they spike every year. There is a reason. Yeah, there you go. 39% chance. So those, I mean, can you go back like all time?
It's been since January. It's been up since January.
Okay, so you can see that thing spiking like almost every year. There's a time in every single year that, at least I remember, that thing spiked. So that doesn't tell me anything. I'm not going to make an investment decision based what the ad makers are.
The bookies.
Yeah. So
this was was also the chart that panicked the whole market, right?
Okay.
The one here.
Yeah. So this one right there, it was quite concerning when I saw that. Okay, because the drop is like it went from 2% to almost -3.
Almost 2.9%, correct.
That's a big drop right there.
Yeah.
Beginning of March.
Yeah, so it's expected, like the thing is just like maybe we see this, right? But then the question will be like, are the tariffs here to stay in the long term? That's the big question that many people like. I don't think it, like, do you have a theory on it? Because I have many theories, but I still don't know. Like I have the theory that he wants to renegotiate the USMCA, that he wants to renegotiate NATO, that he wants to renegotiate like the Ukraine-Russia deals and everything. So it's like everything is a deal, and he's looking to renegotiate everything. He's brought everything center stage.
I mean, I believe that too. I don't think he just put in the tariffs for the sake of putting them and just keeping them there. Which, by the way, other countries do that. Other countries, they put the tariffs on, and there's no negotiation, no nothing. And you want to enter India, you have to pay 100%, 100% extra. I think India is getting tariffs as we speak. But I don't think that's his intention. I think that's the way he negotiates. Okay, I'm going to come and I'm going to start shooting first, and then you're going to shoot back, and then we're going to get to the table and we're going to kiss and we're going to be BFFs. Okay, that's basically what he does. But in the meantime, he's selling to everyone that those tariffs are here to stay. The market believes that, and the market is reacting in a way that the tariffs are staying.
Yeah. No, it's that credible theory. It's like if you believe that I'm gonna do this, the market will react in the way that I need it to react.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't have to execute. Maybe I don't have to go in and actually make the changes I need to make.
Yes.
So hopefully we it's like we're probably going to meet somewhere in the middle, whether the tariffs go off or maybe we renegotiate some trade deals, hopefully, in order to get that. But this is something interesting that we, one of the last points in here, it's like the FOMC, and I want to get your takes on this, right?
Yeah.
Because they were expecting in 2024 GDP to be 2.5 and then 2025 to be 2.1, right?
Yes.
But if we get that the Atlanta Fed
the GDP reader, yes,
right? If we get that, then it's gonna be very, very interesting to see what the Fed will do, because you had a controversial take on it. So what are your expectations on the Fed and the interest rate?
Okay, so the last episode we did, me, you, and Mimi, I made a prediction. At the time, the market was pricing 2 rate cuts. That was not too long ago. I think it was like beginning of the year. The market was pricing 2 rate cuts, and I said we're getting more. I said 3. Now the market is pricing 3. I say we're getting 4, because they're expecting 2.1 that you just showed, 2.1 GDP growth for 2025. And it's probably going to be lower than that. Probably it's going to be like in the 1.9 range, okay? And you don't want to have rates too high when you're getting a slowdown. You don't want to be the reason of the recession, Fed. So they're gonna cut like aggressively. They're getting it down to neutral like in no time. Like this time next year, we're gonna be at neutral. Like I guarantee you. So I predict, I don't predict, I foresee that we're gonna get at least 3 rate cuts, at least minimum 4.
Okay.
Minimum 4.
So the thing is it's interesting because if we were to get the slowdown that people are starting to call, right?
Yes.
Like the Fed has room to cut.
Yes.
We are in a solid position right
Yes.
now. The Fed has that room to cut, which, you know, during 2020, we really didn't have that much room. So, but now we do. We are sitting right now at what, 4.75?
It's 4.25 with
4.25, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, and then, but we still have room. We still have that room to cut. We still have that room to stimulate. And potentially, if we start getting those interest rates down with Trump, it feels that Trump really wants that. We could potentially see the Fed put those rates down, and then the stimulus come in, and then the markets could rally up into the rest of the year. And hopefully Trump doesn't have to enact all of the tariffs. He starts getting the concessions that he wants in the deals that he's looking to get.
Yes.
You know? So that's what I see. Okay, let's pivot to the last part. Dimitris, what are you doing? How is your portfolio changing? How are you dealing with this uncertainty, doubt? Many investors, I spoke to Timothy the other day, and, you know, it's like, he says sometimes you just got to go work out.
No, the volatility doesn't bother me, like not one bit. But the way I'm thinking about it, because I'm a macro guy, so I'm looking at the macro to guide me where I'm gonna put my capital to work. So, and let's go back to Trump, because the whole thing starts with Trump, then it goes to the Fed, and then from the Fed, I'm gonna tell you how I position in the last month or so. So, Trump, the uncertainty is going to be with us for another month, maybe 2. So it's going to be like choppy for until the end of Q2. Then everything settles. He's gonna get a deal with France and with Germany and with Ukraine and all that. Everything is gonna get taken care of. Then the Fed is going to start cutting. Now, assuming nothing crazy happens, okay? Then the Fed is, because we have room, like you said, we have room to cut. It's 4.25 the funds rate, and inflation is 2.8. So there is a solid 1.5%. We're not getting to neutrals as yet, but we can cut 1%, like 100 basis points, like easily. So with that in mind, who gets the benefit when we get rate cuts, as we saw in the last couple of cycles? Who gets benefit? The American tech, the big tech. So I position, and also you have to keep in mind, if you wait for the rate cuts to happen and then position, it's not going to be there anymore. So the price runs ahead of the fundamentals. It's how it goes. So I position myself heavily into Amazon, Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, big banks, JP Morgan, Bank of America, private equity, Apollo Global Management for later in the year when the IPO market comes for Goldman Sachs. So it's boring. It's nothing really exciting, but it can be boring and be like really profitable. So I'm just sticking to what works, and I'm remaining bullish for the remainder of the year. How about you?
Okay.
What's your...
Well, right now, like, you know, and this is where everybody's story is different, right? Like for my eToro portfolio, I'm probably going to stay invested. I'm looking for positions to get in and out really quickly. I do think that Trump brings a lot of trading opportunities, and Trump allows for that strategy to play a little bit. But again, I would say like 80 to 90% of my portfolio is long term. So I'm just looking to potentially enter positions. Maybe the gains that I get from trading probably plays into those long-term positions. Companies like, I don't know, companies like that have been so beat up lately, right? Like when you look at the S&P 500 and like the downturn from peak to trough is being, like, if you look at the Nasdaq, it's 13%. If you look at the S&P, it's 10%, right? But if you look at the at NVIDIA, what like we're talking about what like a massive drop. We're talking about
It's nothing.
what like
I think it's 30%.
30%, I think
30%.
40%. It was almost 40% at some
Yes.
points, right?
Yes.
So all of the sudden, and this was because when the market, and you mentioned this at the beginning, that the market overreaction, we tend to overreact to the top and we tend to overreact to the bottom.
Yes.
And in this case, we did overreact to the bottom, but not in the way that it normally would be, which is like the whole market selling off. But we sold off the things that were working in the last 2 years, like tech, Amazon, Microsoft. All of them got so hurt. But they still have the earnings, they still have the revenue, they still have the sales. So that's where it becomes super appealing to stay, because all of a sudden you're looking at like companies looking at, like I was trying to get an idea of what Verizon, for example, or what's the PE of Verizon.
Verizon.
Verizon is looking at 10, but it's
not
like their
even,
growth is
I
not.
mean, Verizon is not a company, just bonds. Like in the stock market. I mean, seriously.
But even if you go into consumer defensives, right?
Yes.
Like companies that are not going to stop selling, you're getting overvalued.
Yes.
Overvaluations there too. Philip Morris. I was looking at Philip Morris, which is a tobacco company. And it's sitting at 33 PE ratios. It's like last week, NVIDIA was cheaper than Philip Morris, and who do I think is going to innovate more? It's an easy answer.
Yes.
So we're getting this sort of like, and then obviously like we saw the same going to Europe, we saw the same going to China, and I don't take away from the progress that the Chinese have made. The Chinese that with DeepSeek and with the innovations with Manus AI have definitely created this innovation place for AI to come in, and they are definitely a player in the world stage. The question is, can they still continue to compete? And when America all of a sudden decides to throw in a ton of investment, which Trump is starting to do. The only thing is Trump doesn't, he has a lot of executive orders.
Yes.
But I'm sure by the end of the week he'll write the executive order. Markets only go up. Yeah. I signed by Donald Trump. Yeah. And I'm sure, But again, it's still America. There's still innovation. There's still knowledge. There's still many people that know the center of investing and the center of innovation is still the United States. Nobody can take that away in a year.
I have a take about DeepSeek. I was thinking the other day. So prior of the DeepSeek revelation, which took the world by surprise, prior to that, I was with the impression that the Chinese, they were investing big into AI. But the DeepSeek was not created by a major Chinese university. It wasn't created by Alibaba or by one of their champions, but by a hedge fund.
Yeah.
By some dude and a hedge fund. So you're telling me that the best they come up with is like a dude with a hedge fund created something?
But you know what the other take is? And it's the take that I have.
What?
Is that with the use of LLMs and artificial intelligence, a single person or a small group of people were able to create what took OpenAI, what took Amazon, what took Google years of development, because they had access to the tools that companies like Meta created.
Yeah.
So that tells you that AI is working.
The first one that creates something from nothing gets screwed. You have to put the effort and the money and the risk and all that to create something from nothing. I think Peter Thiel called it going from 0 to 1. Going from 0 to 1 is like a major achievement. And then once you give the 1 to everyone, they can make it 2. But going from 0 to 1 is a big deal. As far innovation, I'm not changing the Americans for the moment. I think the Americans is like the place to be for innovation. And we get to see how many NVIDIA chips DeepSeek has. They're claiming...
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny because the hedge fund so the story goes that the hedge fund, right, they were buying the H100s for their trading activities, and their algorithms and all of that stuff before the implementation of the bans and the restrictions and all of that. So they're saying we're talking about anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000, but obviously they don't want to tell you that. They want to say, hey, I can do it with a 1060 Ti.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden, like, did you think that they shorted NVIDIA?
Of course they did. I mean, if you're a hedge fund and you can see a play, and what day was it? was a Monday, right? Why wasn't it a Thursday or a Friday?
Yeah.
I think the news came out on a Friday, but it hit the markets on a Monday. On a Monday morning, like we were ready for the short. So sometimes you have to question the timing a little bit. And it goes back to the Trump thing, the timing. Why he's doing everything at once? Why he's not spacing them out? Okay, let me deal with China in the Q3 and with Europe in Q4. Let me do Canada and Mexico. No, he does everything at once, get them out of the way. Let's get on with our lives. Let the markets go up. He wants growth. I mean, he loves to be on TV and say, oh, the Dow Jones have another record today. I mean, he loves to do that.
He does. 100% he does.
Yes.
It's amazing TV.
Yes.
This will be great TV.
Yes.
Like he says it, he knows it. Like I don't think I've paid attention to the White House feed as much as when Trump is president.
Yeah.
Like I have a Truth Social account.
Are you?
I do. You gotta have it. Because he posts there first, and then they retweet it into Twitter. But he posted through social first. So you gotta have the account. You gotta have it. And it's so toxic. It is the most, like, every single post is like Donald Trump posts, and then there is like the fanboys of Trump. It's just like, oh my God, that's why I hired him for. He's my president. He's my one guy. Oh my God, I'm so happy he's changing the world. And it's like, you're gonna pay so much for eggs. I hope you pay so much for eggs. So much.
Oh my God.
But it's crazy.
I'm not on Truth Social. I'm just following him. I don't follow him on Twitter, but I get his tweets. I mean, you know what? You know what I'm glad? Do you remember last year? I think you called it last year. You said last year that if you close your eyes and you just threw at the S&P board, you made 20%. That fucking shit is gone. So there's no easy 20% anymore. Okay, it's going to be volatility. We're going to get periods like this more often. The market goes well. He gets on TV. He says something. The market goes down. So on one hand, I'm glad that the people that thought that you just buy whatever and you make 20.
It is the beauty, and it is the lessons. It's the two lessons that Trump has taught.
Yes.
I spoke about it with Timothy, but lesson number one is that the market doesn't just go up.
Yes.
And lesson number two, there is risk when you enter the stock market. Before you buy any stock, it goes up forever. Now, what is the beauty? There is risk. You're putting money at risk. Sometimes the money that you give Donald Trump to hire, sometimes he fires them. You're fired. You know, and that's the truth of Trump, you know, and the truth of markets.
You know what? Microsoft, Amazon, Google, I think they gave him $1 million for the inauguration. And I think the FTC just started a probe on Microsoft yesterday. So he's taking no prisoners, okay? So it's interesting. It's interesting what he does and the way he's going about it. So there's nothing. I think eventually the markets, they're going to go up with him. Okay, but it's not going to be like easy. Just don't look your laptop. You make 20%. No, those days are behind us until we get like a boring guy in the White House that they don't care about fiscal policy and let the Fed do whatever. Because is this the first Fed meeting after the inauguration, or this is going to be the second? I think it's going to be the second, right?
I think it's gonna be this. Well, let me double check on that data real quick. Because he had one. No, it's the second. Yeah, because the first one was 28, 29. So just as he took office.
Okay, so he was busy with still signing his executive orders the first 10 days or whatever. But this Fed meeting, which is a bit crucial because the market are experiencing a sell-off, okay. Don't be surprised if Trump is tweeting in real time while Jay Powell is talking, okay. And
they're gonna get interesting again for sure. You're gonna have the Truth Social feed.
Yes.
Jerome in the middle.
I feel it. He's gonna call him an idiot. I feel the president is going to call Jay Powell an idiot.
He stayed so far. He stayed super professional when it comes to Powell. He's mentioned him, but I don't think he has called him. I think he's letting him be. And he's just, you know what? I know that I don't have the power to make you drop the interest rate, but I have the power to destroy everything around it, so you do.
You know what? Now that you say that, I think Trump is going about getting inflation down. Maybe he's not doing it on purpose. Maybe it's just like indirectly. But getting the oil price down, I mean, it has an effect on the CPI. So little things like that, they're gonna work, and he's trying to get inflation down by himself because the Fed has to charge for everything more. So people are gonna say, I'm not gonna spend anymore. And that's how they get inflation down, which is unfortunate and counterproductive in my opinion. But the executive has the power to make it in a different way. So you know what? The next 4 years they're going to be like nothing like the last 4 years, for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to keep us interested for sure.
Well, I used to wake up and like, you know, like the scariest thing in my feed was, hey, Biden tripped over some stairs and a reporter asked him what flavor was his ice cream, you know, and I was like, okay, great. And like I look at my portfolio and I was up 2% and I was like, oh, that's fantastic, you know, like let the old man go.
Yeah.
He got lost, that's okay. And then Trump is like every single minute, it's like, you know what? I would take over Greenland. No. I want Mexico. How about, you know, South America become the 51st state? I'm like, what? I feel like I've ate 4 years and it's been 2 months.
Yes, it hasn't even been 2 months. It's going to be 2 months in a week.
Yeah. The big question will be if he keeps going in the crazy, you know, if he keeps going with the crazy rhetoric,
yes,
what's going to happen to the value of his word as the time goes by? Because markets, you know, like markets overreact. COVID, we overreact extremely fast and then we recover, right? Same with Biden and all this different stuff. But there, you know, like even with AI, like the market is like, okay, market's going to go up because of AI, but then the market comes down and it's like, okay, like maybe we went too crazy. But the question is how long does Trump have until everybody's just like, yeah, it's just Trump another day.
But you know what? He does what he says he's going to do. I mean,
that's the thing.
Thing. I mean, he promised a Bitcoin reserve. I mean, he did it. Maybe it wasn't the way that we expected that he's going to buy from the open market, but whatever they have, the U.S. government, they're keeping. So the tariffs that he threatened all the nations to do, he did them. So it's not like he's just talking and not doing it. He's not acting on it, but he's not acting on it. But I think whatever he claims, whatever he's threatened to do, he usually does it.
Yeah. Like he hasn't lied. I don't think he's lied, you know?
He's exaggerating, but he's not really lying.
Yeah. He's exaggerating. You know, like everything he said he's doing and he's executing and he's doing the thing. Now, the question is by the end of the 4 years would he take over Greenland? And like maybe he saw Putin and he saw how the world reacted to Putin and he's like, you know, like the only reason Putin didn't win was because I was in the Ukraine side. But what if we're not I'm just gonna take over Greenland. No, and the thing is like
they're gonna buy Greenland. They're gonna buy it. They're gonna offer. I mean, I read this somewhere and from credible sources. I'm sure you read it too. So it's like 50,000 people or whatever, 55,000. So they thought to offer each citizen $1 million. It's like 50 billion or whatever. I mean, 50 billion, you just write the check, okay?
But is it like would you sell it? You know what I mean? Like would you like as long as they promise me a passport and I'm like, okay.
If you are from Greenland, okay, what happens if you join the United States? You get a US passport. So you can travel basically anywhere in the world with a US passport. You can go to the US anytime you want. And you have security that nobody's going to bother you. The downside is some military people, they're going to show up and they're going to build bases around Greenland. And they're going to mine the shit out of it for minerals. So it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. I think I don't want to make predictions, but I think by the end of the 4 years, it's going to be a U.S. territory.
So far, he's done everything. He's going to say he was going to do.
Do you imagine the map of the U.S., Alaska, and Greenland surrounding Canada. Oh my God.
The thing is, well, you know what the theory, and I've been digging deep just to try to understand why is Greenland so important, and it's the fact that because of global warming,
Yeah.
the North Cap is melting.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting because it's opening up channels, and Russia has access to that, and they've already been building and having a presence in that area, starting to have a presence. And that's, like all of a sudden, you had a wall that protected the states, and now you don't have that anymore. And that's what potentially scaring Trump.